I was talking to a good friend of mine just a few days ago. He's a host of a homestead channel called Neil Homestead. He's really one of the best preppers I've ever been around. Very, very, very brilliant man. But we were talking about this idea of where would you go? Like, where do you go for safety? Where do you go? In the end times specifically, because when you talk about just chaos in the world or a world without the rule of law or whatever that may be, we obviously have places that we probably feel safe at and places we don't. But what I'm talking about is the end times, specifically where's safe, where's not. God has made it very clear on what is not safe and what is safe. And we're doing a series called The End of Times. So I want to take a moment and say that the very next episode, we're going to be spending several weeks, if not a few months, on Babylon, because we're going to be talking about Babylon for 2 complete chapters. And obviously, this is a place you don't want to be in the end times. There's definitely some directions that God says to get out of her, my people, specifically in the book of Revelation. But there's places that He has prepared in the wilderness. And as I talk to my friend about where do you go, there's really, I want to start by saying there's nowhere to go. First, it's a worldwide thing. This is a worldwide thing. The end times is going to affect the whole world. You can't just say, well, I'll be safe over there, or I'll be safe here. I mean, you run off some islands, but guess what? It says the islands will actually be destroyed. You go up into the mountains. Well, guess what? It says the mountains are destroyed. So, in all of Babylon, 1/3 of the earth is destroyed. So where do you go that's safe? Well, I want to start by saying nowhere. You can't escape it. You are part of this. The human race has a cost to pay. There's a penalty to pay for the sins of the human race. And as we get into the end times, there's going to be a penalty to pay for the blood of the saints during the warring with the saints for 3.5 years. There's going to be a price to pay, and it's going to be worldwide. And the world already knows we're in a season, and I think we kind of just experienced this thing where we all saw that, we're in this season that is different. The season of the world has changed, and the whole world knows it, and we've all felt it. We've all seen, no matter where you go in the world, you're going to feel this season of change, and it's a spiritual season of change, and there's nowhere in the world you can go to escape that, but you definitely want to be out of Babylon. Highly recommend you watch the following episodes on the end times. We're going to be talking about where that is. But there's also specifically some places addressed in the Bible that are safe. So I want to take a moment and kind of talk about those specifically. I did make a video on that. I'll put that link because we talked about this in a section of Revelation. But I just want to address it again that, specifically in Revelation 12, there's a kind of the history of the world given in about 6 verses, 1 through 6, talking about what Israel is going through and giving birth to Jesus Christ to save mankind. But it says something peculiar in Revelation 12, starting in verse 5. And it says, "And she bore a male child," as Jesus, "who is to rule all nations with a rod of iron, and her child was caught up to God and to His throne." And we've seen that happen. Then the woman fled into the wilderness, where she has a place prepared by God that they should feed her there 1,260 days. Now, that 1,260 days is 3.5 years. They're talking about the 3.5 years of tribulation. And Jesus specifically, when he talked about that timeline in Matthew 24, he says this in 15, "Therefore, when you see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet standing in the holy place, whoever reads it, let him understand." So this is what Daniel says at the very last few verses of Daniel. He gives, when you see the abomination take place, he gives the same number of days, the same period of time. So he's saying when you see that happen, when you see this timeline that the woman needs to be in the wilderness, Jesus then says this, "Then let those who are in Judea flee to the mountains. Let him who is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, and let him who is in the field not go back to get his clothes. But woe to those who are pregnant and to those with nursing babies in those days, and pray that your flight may not be in the winter or on the Sabbath. For then there will be great tribulation, such as not been since the beginning of the world, until this time, no, not ever shall be. So what he's saying here is when you see these things take place, then flee. Well, where? Where is this place that they're supposed to flee? Because God says, I prepared a place in the wilderness for the woman, for the Jews, specifically for 144,000 Israelites who are marked by God, who will be warring with the Antichrist alongside the Gentile remnant of Jesus Christ. And they'll be wildly successful. So where is this place? Well, I want to say first and foremost, it's east of Jerusalem. And we know that to be true because in Zechariah, when Jesus sets his feet on the Mount of Olives, it splits into two and it gives them a passage specifically for those in Jerusalem to flee through the mountains, which is east. And we know the Mount of Olives is east of Jerusalem. So clearly there's a safe place there. But without making any assumptions, it clearly says this in the Bible. If we go to the book of Daniel, and at the end of the book of Daniel, Daniel is talking about, for several chapters, he's talking about the warring between the kings of the north and the south. And it's a really fascinating moment in time where Daniel is predicting the future of Israel until the end times, from his moment till the end times. And what he talks about, the warring of the kings of the north and south, he's talking about first the Greeks, then it was the Ptolemaic and the Seleucid empires, all these people that ruled over Israel from the north and from the south. And they would often go back and forth, with Israel being the battleground all the way through the Romans. And then he goes all the way into the end times, and he says this peculiar thing about the end times in Daniel 11, starting verse 40. At the time of the end, the king of the south shall attack him, and the king of the north shall come against him like a whirlwind, with chariots, horsemen, and with many ships. And he shall enter the countries, overwhelm them, and pass through. He shall also enter the glorious lands. Now he's in Israel. And many countries shall be overthrown, but these shall escape his hand. Edom, Moab, and the prominent people of Ammon. He shall stretch out his hand against the countries, and the land of Egypt shall not escape. So the only place that escapes the Antichrist when he comes into the glorious land and he causes the abomination to take place, and it says flee in that moment, well, Edom, Moab, and Ammon all make up what is today modern day Jordan. So I guess to answer that question, Jordan would be about the only place that is mentioned in the Bible that is a safe place to go in the end times. And Jordan is, of course, straight east of Israel, so if the Mount of Olives was to split into two and people were to flee, they'd make their way, of course, to Jordan. So I kind of answered that question in a couple different original questions. Where's safe? Well, it really is no. I mean, even in Jerusalem and Jordan, it's still, you can't escape it. You're going to feel the effects of all of it. All of it you're going to feel. Depending on which side you are on, you might be getting killed by angels and stung by wasps and being essentially forced to drink blood and that kind of thing. So depending on where you're at, it's definitely going to be dark worldwide. It's definitely going to be hot worldwide for a period of time. So there's nowhere you can escape it. But somewhere that will actually be there when Jesus Christ sets his feet on the Mount of Olives would be Jordan. So love to hear your thoughts on all this. Hope this is helpful. Put it in the comments below. If you like this video, click like and subscribe. If you feel called to support this channel through Patreon, that link is also below. But the most important part of this channel is we take prayer requests, so never hesitate to send that in. Thank you for watching this episode of God, Family, and Guns. And as always, love God, love your family, and love guns.